so hopefully everyone has had time to bring up the slide deck so we can go ahead and start running through these things. The focus of our talk today is using Claude as an AI coworker, having it do things for you that you otherwise, do not want to do not have the skill set to do. And to that end, we're going to be going through a number of different prompts. We're going to have 10 prompts that we're going to look at. Hopefully we can get to a good number of them. We have about 50 minutes total today to work through as many as we can, along with a few slides to make sure that everyone is on the same page in terms of understanding Claude and what to do and how to set it up and everything. Then we will start working with the actual prompts within Claude Code, and then we'll have a little bit of a recap and then open it up to a Q&A. So a little bit about myself. I think Ted already told you about the collective, so we'll skip over that. I've been in tech for a long time and taken a lot of roles, been at startups and big tech companies and all of that. Wrote a book on AI, and right now I run an AI company. So work with Claude on a daily basis, and so I try and translate the learnings that myself and my team get to you guys. The agenda we already covered, but in case you don't have the slide deck up, we're just going to recap Claude and what we talked about in the last two demos. And then we are going to do a quick setup to make sure that everyone is on the same page. And then we're going to dive into the 10 different use cases and the prompts associated with those use cases. And then again, we'll recap a little bit afterwards. We'll share some additional resources, and then we will open up the floor to you guys to ask any questions that you have. All right. So to level set a little bit and give you a foundation, the way that we are going to be looking at Claude today is through the lens of you are a boss, a CEO, a manager, and Claude is your developer, your advisor, analyst, team lead, someone that does the work for you, right? So you are going to be in these prompts and the actual activity, the demo, you are going to be describing to Claude something that you want it to do, and you're going to be making sure that it has access to do those things and the connectors to do them. And then you are going to review the work that it actually does. And if it's not up to par, you're going to tell Claude that. You're going to go through an iterative cycle to get it better. Otherwise, you're going to, put the pin on that and move on to the next one. Or you can actually turn that into a schedule or a routine, which we'll talk about a little bit more in depth later on. All right, so we're going to get right to the demo in this session. And this demo starts with making sure that everyone has Claude Desktop. It is very easy to set up and get running. You do need a Pro account or a Max account, but Pro account is the minimum. That is their $20 a month paid plan. But you will have to authenticate into your Claude AI account to actually get the features of Claude Desktop. So if you don't have that, you can still watch and follow along and learn about Claude, but it will obviously be eminently more useful if you have the subscription and you can be following along and pasting in the prompts when we're doing it and seeing the actual results of what we're doing here. So again, everyone, hopefully the majority of you are returnees from the first 1 or 2 sessions that we've done, where you should already have Claude Desktop downloaded and authenticated on your computer running, whether you're using Mac or PC. It functions, well on either. And we are going to be working in Cowork mode today. So Cowork, if you haven't gone to Cowork yet, there should be 3 buttons. And I will go ahead and share my Claude screen here real quick, so you can see what I'm talking about. So hopefully you can see this. And this is what Claude Desktop looks like if you haven't seen it before. And up here in the top left, there are a number of buttons you can use. One of them is chat. This is going to be the same window as the web interface. So when you go to Claude.ai, the center one is Coworker. It's what we're going to be working out of today. And then the one on the right is Claude Code, at least the GUI version, the graphical user interface. There is Claude Code that we talked about in the previous session when we did Agent Teams, which is the CLI-based Claude Code. They're both very functional. Many of the features of the Claude Code CLI are baked into Claude Desktop, but there are some differences in the features that they actually have. But again, today we're going to be working in Coworker, so make sure that you have it downloaded. You have Coworker on in the middle. And then we will hop over into our setup guide and go through the remainder of the setup here real quick. Coworker setup. There we go. So we had the link to the guide, and Ted and or Luis will provide the link if you guys haven't seen it. But in this guide, it goes through the download and installation, including for Mac users, if you haven't installed it yet, the switch to Coworker mode. Obviously, if you're downloading it for the first time, you will need to go through a few windows and authenticate and all of that. That should be relatively easy. Then again, once you're authenticated, you go into Coworker mode. You grant folder access. So as you saw in the window that I was in before, the Coworker window, the folders are down in the bottom portion. So I'm going to swap over again and show you guys what I'm talking about. So we're just going to open up a new task here. And this is the folder dropdown. So here you can select the folder that you would like to use. There won't be one enabled by default, so you'll have to choose a folder. You can create a brand new folder if you'd like to give it access to a brand new folder. But for several of these tools and several of the demos that we're going to be doing, we will need access to a specific folder that you might like to clean up. As the, let's see, the second prompt that we're going to be working on is file organization. So that will require access to, perhaps your downloads folder or your documents folder or another folder where you dump a lot of documents and photos, but they aren't organized. So make sure that's set. And the next step is to connect tools. So within Claude Desktop, you need to both connect your tools, and then you also need to enable the tools for the use with Coworker. And so connecting your tools, you need to go click in the bottom left and click on Settings. And then you go to Connectors. And so for several of the prompts that we're going to be doing today, there are a number of connectors that will be needed. For the first one, which is the morning briefing connects to your calendar and your Gmail. So you'll need to have a Google Calendar, and then you'll need to have Gmail connected as well. So I have these already connected, but the process for connecting them is easy. You just need to go to Browse Connectors, go through this list. If they're not at the top, which Gmail usually is, then you can type into the search bar at the top, and Gmail will pop up. And then you can do the same for a calendar. If you don't use Google Calendar, obviously there's a number of other calendar apps, Microsoft 365, Calendly, and a number of others that you can connect as well. So go ahead and connect those. For the file organization, which is the second one, you can connect Google Drive, which if you want to have Claude organize your Google Drive rather than a physical folder on your computer, or a digital folder as it's on your operating system. The third one is going to be meeting prep, which requires Google Calendar. The fourth is email generation, which requires Gmail. The fifth is competitive research, which doesn't require any. And 7, 8, 9, 10, yeah. So it looks like all of these prompts today are going to be usable with just those 3 connectors. So make sure that they're connected, and then when you're done, you can click the back button and you'll be back in Coworker ready to go. So the first prompt that we're going to be doing is going to be the daily morning briefing. So I'm going to swap back over to the setup guide, show you guys what we're talking about, and we will be copying it over directly. All right, so here's the setup guide. In the prompt section, there are 10 prompts in here. We're going to be starting with number 1. So this is actually a rehash of the Coworker prompt that we used, or a very similar one to what we used for our first session 3 weeks ago. And we're doing that for anyone who is a new attendee to these classes. The remaining ones are all going to be net new. So there's going to be a lot of new content here, but we wanted to make sure that everyone was level set and had the opportunity to use the prompt that we did for the first session. So again, to use this for Coworker, we're just going to copy and paste this and go and drop it in the Coworker prompt bar. And then there are a few configurations. The main one being that we need to set the folder. And I will swap back over to Claude Code so you can see it actually run. All right, so we have the prompt in here. We have it on ask. There are other options here, but for demonstration and for safety reasons, we generally want to have Claude prompt us before taking any actions, especially with our local file structure, because it can make mistakes and it can delete things that it should not be deleting. So we want to make sure that it is asking permission before it makes any real changes on our behalf. And then we can go ahead and run it. Usually it will ask a few questions to make sure it understands what we want it to do and or it has access to what it needs to have access to. Now, when I was talking about making sure that connectors were enabled before, all right, so it asked if we can approve calendar list events from Google Multi. So I actually created an MCP server to house all of my multiple email addresses. So I have many, many email addresses connected to this, which is not your standard Google connector that you guys will be using, but it should ask for a similar prompt when you guys work with this. So we can allow it for the task, and then it's asking to be able to search for or through your Gmail, which we will allow it to do. And when I was talking about connectors before, this is what I was talking about. So the connectors need to actually be connected, and then we need to make sure that they're enabled as well. So this is the list of connectors here. And as long as it is on the right showing blue, the connector should be good. Sometimes the authentication will break and you'll have to go back into settings and connectors and then reconnect it. And it actually looks like I probably need to do that with my MCP as well. They typically break every few days, and you'll need to go back in and reauthorize the OAuth connection. So it is an easy process. They usually provide you a link like what is shown. and then it will bring up a browser window, and you will go and confirm that you want to give it access, and then it should be connected. Then you can do the same with calendar, and things should be connected and work after that. So this is a very easy prompt. I do have another one that successfully completed. Actually, it's this one because we turned it into a briefing the other day. So this is actually talking about the event that we are on right now, and summarizing that that is the calendar event that I had linked to that particular email account. So it runs, it will give you a summary based on your email and your calendar, and then you can go ahead and start your day. So typically, you'd run this in the morning so that you can have a good idea of everything that you need to be doing for the day. And then you can start your day off right, with a clear focus. So now we're going to go back to the setup guide and take a look at what prompt is next. So we have 9 more prompts in here. I doubt we're going to get to all 10, but we will go ahead and take a look at all of these. And so you have an idea, and I'll just talk about them briefly, and then we'll go back and try and plug in the second prompt into Claude Code or Claude Coworker and get it to run. So the second one is file organization. So I was talking a minute ago, if you want to connect your Google Drive, if you do so, then you can connect that and give it access, give Claude Coworker access to your Google Drive, and then Claude can go in and sort your Google Drive. Now, I keep a lot of the folders on my computer relatively clean and ordered, and my files, labeled appropriately with a naming scheme just due to my background as an engineer and developer. But many people that I know don't. And so this particular file organization prompt is incredibly useful for a lot of people that I've given it to, including my wife, who tends to be more on the creative side and loves taking photos and everything. And the cool thing about Claude Coworker is that it can analyze images. And so this can go into a Google Drive that has a bunch of photos in it and analyze all of the photos and tag them and name them appropriately. And do the same thing for documents and spreadsheets and PDFs and all kinds of different files. So it is very cool. The next one is meeting prep. So this is going to check for meetings on your calendar. And then for each of those meetings, it's going to research who is going to attend the meeting and the topics that you guys are going to be discussing if they're appended. Otherwise, it will just pull from the title of the meeting and guess about the topic. But you can provide it as much detail as you want. Now, I personally have this running in the background continuously. And so every meeting that I have on all of my business calendars, I get both a text and a WhatsApp recap of what I need to be prepping for those calls. And so this is a very similar type agentic task for Coworker to do. And again, we'll talk about schedules and routines a little bit later, but this is a great one to add to that. And then next one is email draft generation. So connecting Claude to your email, your Gmail, will allow it to go in, read the emails that you're getting, and create draft responses. Now, it will not send these for you. It will create the draft in your draft folder, and then you can go back and find the draft, because it can create many drafts as part of this process, and send them yourself, right? You're going to review them, make sure that they sound like you, that they're for the people that you want to be sending it to, and then go ahead and send that email. So it can save you a great deal of time. You can set this for early in the morning. So you wake up in the morning, you get your daily morning briefing, and then you go check your email and see that you have, seven emails already drafted for you, and you can go ahead and send 4 of them off, and then 3 need actual manual editing on your part, so you just edit them and then send those off as well. It again can save you a great deal of time, which is the main reason why a lot of people are drawn to this tool. And there have been a lot of crazy studies lately showing that the use of Claude Coworker and Claude Desktop saves the average person somewhere between 40 and 120 minutes a day, depending on their job and the tasks that they do. And if you extrapolate that throughout the year, saving 40 minutes a day is about 250 hours per year. So if you are working an 8-hour day, that is roughly an entire month of time that you saved, which is quite impressive. All right, so the next one real quick is the competitive research. So it will research companies on your behalf. Obviously, if you are in a field where there's something else that needs to be researched, right? You are, a farmer and you need to research crops, or, you're a stock analyst and you need to research stocks, right? You can replace company A, B, C, D, E with the thing that you actually need to research, and, just modify this prompt to be more useful for you. The next one is data cleanup. So this will open a spreadsheet in a folder. It will standardize the data in the spreadsheet, remove duplicate rows, duplicate data, all of that. So this can be very useful if you have a lot of uncurated CSVs or Excel files. I use a variant of this frequently for some of the Google Sheets that we have that are outputs from some of the business type software that we use. The next one is personal finance tracking. So this will look at your expenses and categorize them, which is useful for sending it off to your accountant or for your own taxes. This can be expanded to analyze things even more for your own taxes, which were due a week ago. But if you're prepping for next year, using a tool like this can help you prepare. Obviously, it can't give you financial guidance, or can't legally give you financial guidance, but it can help you prepare, and it can do research on your behalf for the type of tax deductions and categorization and things like that you might use. And then number 8 is travel planning. So if you want to plan a trip to Fiji or to Greece, or even just across the country, you can use a prompt like this, and the desktop tool will go ahead and do all of the research for you. You can take it a step further and do things like adding your credit card information and browser use, and allow Claude to start booking things on your behalf. But again, that's not a recommendation for me. It can lead to unintended consequences. So, if you want to test something like that, you really want to be paying attention the entire time. But it is very cool how powerful some of these tools are getting. And then the next one is document formatting. So similar to the data curation that we're talking about for the Excel documents, this will go ahead and format, mostly Word, TXT type documents to give them a standardized tone, right? If you want a casual tone, a formal tone, whatever. But if you have a number of documents that need formatting, this is a good way to do it. And then the last one is the subscription audit. So I personally use this a great deal because I have probably 50 or 60 subscriptions to different services, and there's no way that I'm going to manually go through and look through all of the different subscriptions that I have, or I'm going to remember all of them, because I use some and my kids use some and my wife uses some, and so on and so forth. So difficult to keep track of, but you can utilize this prompt to have Claude track that for you, and then remind you when the renewal dates are up if you want to go ahead and cancel your HBO service or whatever it is. So these are all very cool. Now we can go back to the utilization of the prompts themselves. So the next one we're going to tackle is the file organization. So by default, this one is set to go through your downloads folder. If you want it to work on your Google Drive, then instead of organize my downloads, say organize my Google Drive, and then we'll try and use your Google Drive connector instead. So again, we can go ahead and copy and paste this. We can bring it over to Claude and go ahead and paste it in. And I will swap over to Claude here real quick. All right. This one ran pretty quickly, but it went ahead and renamed a number of documents that I had in my downloads folder. I didn't have any photos or random data, so this was a very quick fix. So we'll give you guys a few minutes to run this prompt. And I'll go back to the setup guide, but again, you just paste in the prompt. You make sure that it has access to your Google Drive in the connectors. All right, it sounds like people have questions, so let me check. Are you guys not able to post your question in the chat?
If you can, feel free to use in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, there's an option to ask a question. Feel free to use that to ask the question, and I will be monitoring that. If not, you might just be raising your hand for fun.
Yeah, it looks like we have a few people raising their hands, so go ahead and ask the questions. That should have approved the two people that raised their hands.
Okay, it looks like we do have two questions here, Andrew. One of them is give us some guidance on the best models for these tasks to manage token usage and be efficient. Another one is how do we connect multiple emails? And then we have another one that's about to pop up. So,
okay, great. Yeah, those are great questions. So the best models for the tasks are going to be dependent on, the broader context of what you're doing. If you need to manage your tokens because you are consistently maxing out your pro or max account, then tasks like these, which tend to be relatively easy in comparison to the broader scope of tasks that could be done, you can use a model like Sonnet. Sonnet is a good, efficient model that's relatively intelligent. If you are trying to do very complex tasks, like some of the data curation that we were just talking about, you want to use Opus. Sonnet will not consistently read and organize data from documents with a high level of consistency. It might do it at 90%, but for most people, you need a more accurate number than that. And Opus will do it pretty consistently 95+% of the time, depending on the document. So I would recommend that. If you're using the API rather than an unlimited plan or one of the paid pro or max usage plans, then I would probably use Sonnet for the vast majority of use cases, just to save on API costs. And then Anonymous asked, how do you connect multiple emails? Which I discussed briefly. By default, you cannot. So the Gmail connector for Claude, both the web version and Claude Code and Claude Desktop, do not allow you to connect multiple emails. You cannot connect multiple Google Drives. What I did, because as a business owner, I have a number of different emails that I have to use regularly, I created a custom MCP server that's hosted in Google Cloud. And I had to create essentially a custom app to work with it that allows me to register multiple emails, multiple Google Drives, and multiple calendars, all through the same MCP to Claude. So if you guys really want, I can write down the process that I use because I'm sure I have it in one of the sessions. But if you're interested in doing that, that is a good use case for Claude as well, because you can go into Coworker, Code, or Chat and just ask Claude how to do it, because that's what I did, right? I didn't magically have some knowledge to do that, though I have created MCP servers before. But Claude is a fantastic guide on being able to help you set that up. All right, I think that's all the questions, so I'll get back to the prompts. Hopefully you guys were able to paste in the file organization that we talked about, and I will swap back over to the setup guide. We're going to be stopping here around 7:20 so that we can wrap things up and then give you guys more time to ask any questions that you have. So we'll probably do one more, the meeting prep, which is number 3. And then obviously you guys will have access to both the setup guide and the homework. The homework actually has 5 additional prompts and use cases that you guys can take advantage of. So I will swap back to the Coworker setup. All right. So the next one is the meeting prep. So this one should also be relatively easy, right? It tells you the connector that you need, which is Google Calendar, because you're prepping for a meeting. And then we're going to go ahead and copy that one over into Claude Code. And it should, if you've connected your Google Calendar, it should run just fine. It looks like my OAuth is not connected, so I'll need to reconnect that. But we'll give you guys a few minutes to go ahead and run that. And then we might be able to sneak in the email draft generation as well. All right, I'll swap over to Claude Code so you guys can see the email draft generation that it's doing for the second one. All right. Should be able to see that. Well, that's weird. All right, let's. All right. Now it's asking for permission. Hopefully you guys are keeping this on having Claude ask you for permission rather than just approving everything, because it will make mistakes, as I said before. All right, it's still not re-authenticating, which occasionally this will happen to you guys. You can properly use the OAuth connector and Claude will still not authenticate. properly. It is a known bug, and they fixed a number of different bugs related to it, but it still crops back up occasionally. Yeah, this one looks like it disconnected from the MCP that I was just talking about. So I'll have to go ahead and reconnect that. I'll go ahead and swap back over to the setup guide while we do that. All right. Let's see. The MCP is connecting. All right, it looks like it reconnected. Give me 1 minute, guys. All right, yep, it reconnected just fine. All right, we should be able to see the Claude Coworker again. It did. It went ahead and reconnected and re-authenticated, and now it found unread messages, which are probably going to be from Meetup for one of the events that we have listed, saying that people have been signing up. That's one of the common messages that we get. All right. Yep. Meetup notifications, and then Google security alert for the reconnection that I just did. So again, very effective. If you have especially a crowded inbox, this is a very useful tool, not only to find and generate replies automatically or draft emails automatically, but also you can task Coworker to go ahead and clean up your inbox as well, right? It can create folders, it can put emails into folders for you. So if you have 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 emails in your inbox, much like, I'm going to talk about my wife again because she is very guilty of this, but she has, many thousands of emails in her inbox, and I got her to start using Claude Code recently, and that was one of the things that I had her start working on first. Was organizing her email inbox so she could actually keep track of everything, and it worked fantastically. So I'm a huge fan of utilizing the tool for this. Now, we are getting close to time. So real quick, I told you guys about schedules and routines. So I just wanted to touch on that real quick. And what those are, schedules are tasks that you set to run repeatedly. So just like we did the briefing and the email cleanup and all of that, we can click on new task and we can just name this. So we can name it test, or we can name it file cleanup, and clean my downloads folder. And then we can copy and paste the file organization, which was the second step, into here. And then we can give it access to downloads folder and choose a model. This, again, I said Sonnet is going to be a pretty good model for just organizing downloads. And then we need to set the frequency for tasks like this. So I personally, like, your Claude desktop needs to be on while you're doing this. So I would probably set this to weekly and maybe have it do it on Sunday at 9 p.m. So it does it, after regular use time. And then you save it. And now every Sunday at 9 p.m., your folder is going to get organized. So that is how you turn the initial prompts that we did from a one-time use into a recurring use that your computer will and Claude desktop will do on your behalf on a scheduled basis. consistently for the life of however long you use Claude Desktop. I mentioned routines as well. Routines is the cloud version of schedules. With a pro account, you get 5 routines, and with a max account, you get 15. And so you can set those up in the cloud in Claude.ai, go over to Claude Code and set them up there. And that will allow you to run the exact same prompts with connection to any of your digital services like Google Drive, but not your actual computer files and folders, but anything you connect digitally, and do similar type tasks. So if you wanted to organize your Google Drive, you can set up the routine to do that. And so these routines can be very powerful. And I have 5 max accounts, and I have 15 routines set up for each one for doing a variety of things. So I am a huge proponent of utilizing these tools. And many of these prompts are very fitting to set up as routines and or scheduled tasks. So keep that in mind as you guys play around with the rest of the prompts in both the setup guide and the homework. All right, now I'm going to go back to the slide deck so we can close things out, and then we will open up the floor a little bit for you guys to ask any questions that you have. So that was the slide deck. These are just the prompts that we already talked about. Data cleanup, personal finance, travel planning, document formatting, subscription audit, and then how to build your own, right? So obviously we learned about a bunch of them that I put together for you guys, but if you want to build your own, the process is very simple. You just identify a thing that takes you time to do, and you do it consistently. So again, things like organizing folders, labeling documents, labeling photos, like all of that stuff is grunt work, in that you could do it if you wanted to, if you enjoy doing it, but you don't have to do it now. And so you identify something like that that you would like Claude to do for you. You just write a prompt in plain English, as you saw in the prompts that we were using. You run it once manually, and then you set it up to be scheduled, and then it runs automatically for you. And again, that compounds. I think before I was talking about 40 minutes a day, compounding to 250-ish hours, which is, that's roughly 5 full days. We talked about working days. So a working day is 8 hours. So that's 3 times that many days. So saving 20 minutes a day saves you 5 full days or 15 working days a year, which is kind of incredible how quickly that adds up. So any of these tasks that you do on a regular basis, if you're able to automate them with this tool, can literally save you large portions of your life. And so in addition to what we provided in the setup guide, we do have a homework guide. The homework guide goes over a lot of what we discussed today, and it adds 5 additional prompts that we didn't discuss. And it goes over the creation and the improvement of the prompts and other tools that we were using. The setup guide as well, if you have any issues with Claude, finding co-work, connectors not connecting, can't access folders, things like that, there is some troubleshooting in the setup guide that you can access as well. So definitely make use of the resources that we've provided. If you would like additional resources, we did put together a much larger prompt kit. It's 55 pages of prompts and a bunch of different use cases and cool things that you can do with Claude, which is right here. And if you are a business user and interested in business use cases, feel free to book a call to chat with someone on our chapters team. And again, we want all of you to stay connected with us in our organization. We have a link tree that has many of our links and social connections and all of that. We have a site. We have more events that are coming up. So this one, AI on Autopilot, is actually entirely devoted to scheduled and routines. So what we were just going over there at the end on how to turn these prompts into recurring tasks is going to be the focus of the next talk, right? It's going to be fully utilizing Claude to do as much as it can for you. And so there's a ton of great use cases in there, more so than what we covered today. So that's fantastic. We're also going to be running a couple other events this year. So keep your eyes peeled for that. We do have an Openclaw and a Nemoclaw and other variant session coming up as well after we finish the Claude series. So that should be very exciting. And now we're going to open it up to you guys in case there are any additional questions. And after that, we will go ahead and adjourn. So you guys, again, thank you so much for showing up and asking some great questions before. Ted or Luis should be opening up the chat so you guys can ask any questions that you have, and I will do my best to answer them. All right, so Damien asked if I use the 5 Claude accounts on different PCs or I just log in and log out on one PC. So I have multiple PCs that have Claude Desktop on them. And then I have VPSs, which are virtual private servers. And those VPSs have Claude and many of the Openclaw variants that I've been testing all installed on there. And so when I talk about the 5 Claude accounts, they are being fully utilized by a number of different autonomous agents. And then I also have team members on my team that occasionally use some of these Claude accounts on my behalf. So I do not use 5 on a single PC, right? It's on multiple PCs and multiple digital devices. And then can you show setup of multiple Gmail accounts? So I can, not today, but I will put that on the list of things that people have requested. And maybe I'll make like a short video or something and just post it to our social channel. And then are you able to, using your MCP app, also send emails, not only prepare the drafts? Yeah, so I was actually overly permissive in a cybersecurity sense for the MCP that I set up. And there's roughly 150 scopes. So like when you're setting it up in Google Cloud, there are scopes that you apply. Now the default MCP from Claude or from Anthropic, it gives you like 3 or 4 scopes per service that you're connecting. So calendar and Gmail and Gmail and Drive. And those are limited, so it doesn't actually allow full autonomy for sending emails. But if you set up the custom MCP, you can 100% have it send emails on your behalf. And so mine personally allows that, though I don't utilize that feature that often because it's pretty easy to tell when an AI is sending emails, even if it has learned your, your particular style and all of that. But it is totally possible to do. And again, I added that to my list, so I'll probably just put together a short video and post it on our channel for that. All right. Is scheduled task or routine an agent of sorts? Yes. So they are both agentic workflows in that they're utilizing agents on the back end to complete whatever tasks are being given. There is obviously an orchestrator agent that is interpreting the prompt that you give it, and then that usually spawns one or multiple sub-agents to complete the tasks. All right, Thomas asked, on the upcoming Claude on Autopilot, does that mean using cloud resources like AWS EventBridge with Lambda functions? So no, we are not going to be jumping into AWS at all. If you guys really want an AWS, series like this, I'm happy to run one. I am a, certified solutions architect and, worked at Amazon for a little bit. So I am very familiar with AWS and their infrastructure, but it is a very different audience from, what we're talking about here for Claude. And what I meant by routines and scheduled is the type of autopilot and automation that we're talking about, right? Is using the native GUI to be doing that automation rather than setting up our own cloud account. How did you set up multiple Claude accounts? Because there's a call phone validation step. I'm not sure what you're asking. If how I bought multiple Max accounts? I mean, if so, I have many business numbers that are utilized for the businesses that I run. And so I have more than 5 businesses that I run. And each of those businesses has at least one number per business. And so for each business, if I have a Max account, then I just register that business number to the account. All right, Tariq, is there any way to access the recording? So the recording will be, Google takes a little bit to process the recording after we're done here. It gets sent to me. We do a little bit of editing to remove, dead space and anything else. And then we will send the recording out to anyone that registered for this event via Meetup. And then we'll be posting it in a variety of places, including our social media channels and all of that. All right, Kathy asked, how much is Claude a month? So there is a pro account, which is $20. There's a max base account, which is $100. And then there's a max either 4X or 20X account that is $200. And if you cancel, do you lose all the work? So no, it retains the work. You are also able to fully download the context from any and or all of the chats that you have. And there's actually a few buttons that will allow you to share some of the things publicly, including some of the chat threads. So you can actually go into Claude, have a chat thread, make it into a public chat thread, and then utilize it from different devices or share it with other people. So there's a lot of ways that you can prevent yourself from losing any of the work that you've done. All right, Wan Yi. I have chat mode and code on my desktop, but not cowork mode. How do I turn that on? So that's a good question. I don't know in particular what is blocking it on your computer. Sometimes it might require like virtualization or something being turned on your computer. So if I were you, since I don't know the device you're using and the operating system and all of that, I would just open up a Claude chat session and tell it the specs of your device and your operating system and say, how do I turn on Claude Cowork from here? And it will give you instructions because it will web search, find the Claude Code help docs, and get the answer for you. All right, Sharina asked, how much do you spend per month on Claude? So I have 5 Max accounts, so that's $1,000 a month, and then I spend a couple $1,000s in API costs per month, just for business stuff. All right, Damien asked, can you send us your social media channels? So yeah, Luis linked the link tree, which has our chapter social media. Chris asked if you will be doing more advanced sessions. So if you would like advanced sessions, I'm happy to put them on. Again, when we're deciding what content to give people, I try and create content that most people can consume. I personally love doing very advanced things and would be happy to teach it, but the audience for it might be 5 people. So if you want it, I'm happy to test it, and I will put the request on in the backlog. Okay, so Thomas asked about cloud interaction because the scheduled task requires browsers to stay open. True. That's why I was talking about routines. So routines are the version in the web GUI, and it does not require the browser to stay open, right? You set it and you do not have to interact with it anymore. But yes, for scheduled tasks, especially scheduled tasks that require browser automation based on Claude Desktop, you do have to have your computer on, Claude Desktop on, and a browser. Well, you don't actually have to open the browser if you're using browser automation. Claude Desktop can open the browser for you. So it will do so if it's needed. All right, Claude and Anthropic rejects VoIP. So I use Google Voice for one of the numbers that I have registered with Claude Code, and that seemed to work just fine. It is the paid version of Google Voice that allowed text messages, but I don't know, maybe they just didn't like the number you were using or something. All right, Greg, how would you compare Claude to Gemini and ChatGPT in terms of these co-work features? So I think both Codex, which is GPTs, and Claude are more advanced than Gemini's anti-gravity, both in terms of the models that are being used and also the agentic features. I think that Claude Code is hands down the best, or Claude Desktop is hands down the best out of the three, but Codex is not far behind. I personally think that the best out of all of them is certain Openclaw variants. If you have the right model routing set up and all of additional features, which really take maybe 2 weeks to set up and get working correctly. But if you don't want to spend that amount of time, you're not a developer, then Claude Desktop is going to be the best bet for you. All right, and we got another request for the recording, which again I will be editing and then posting sometime tomorrow. So probably in the morning tomorrow. All right, Mel says, when I verify my phone number, it says it's been used too many times. So that's typically a Google protection feature. And I personally have never, I've heard of it, but I don't know how to resolve it offhand. Again, I would just ask Claude to do a web search and find the answer for you. So
I can actually weigh in here too, Andrew.
Oh, okay.
Because I ran into this one. This one is extremely annoying. I'm really sorry, Mal, that you're dealing with that. I unfortunately had to either do what Andrew is talking about, spin up some other number that can work, or if you have a family member or a friend that will never use Claude, maybe bug them and see if they can help you verify it. But this is like a known issue for some folks. They hit a barrier where they can only spin up 2 accounts or something, and then that's it. So apologies that that's a problem. I think the Anthropic team knows about it because so many people have complained. I don't know if they'll fix it. So apologies.
Great. And Ted, can you actually answer Kathy's question? She's asking about LinkedIn being required to sign up for the chapter. Do you know the answer?
LinkedIn being required to sign up for the chapter. Is this on Meetup or let's see here? Let's see, where's Kathy's? Interesting. I'm not sure where you're signing up, but I guarantee you, if you just toss in a random URL there, of course, we would love to connect with you on LinkedIn too. But if you really don't have one, you can just type in, I think it's like linkedin.com/n/NA or just a random URL. I think it'll take it. Little cheat code there.
Right. Thanks, Ted. Looks like we don't have any more questions. So again, thank you everyone for coming. We are going to adjourn the call. Thanks again to Ted and Luis, the co-hosts and moderators. And again, we appreciate everyone for coming. If you have additional content, like some of you have been requesting that you would really like to see, feel free to send that over. There's a variety of different ways to contact us in all of the literature and on Meetup. So feel free to reach out, send us ideas that you have for content that you think would be beneficial. We're always happy to take feedback and to put, new talks in the books and try all sorts of stuff. So again, we appreciate it and have a good night.